7 o'clock. Thank you, Sean. Denise asked me if I was going to put some clothes on for this. And I said, no, this is how we have to dress in Phoenix in July. So not only that, it's an opportunity to show you what a tan looks like. Wherever you are, all you people in different climates. We always open every session with a prayer, and Wayne's here tonight to do that for us.
Hello, Heavenly Father, we exalt you and praise you and worship your holy name. We thank you for your presence. We thank you for your guiding and your leading, Lord. Guide us and lead us as we walk out and carry your name. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you.
Thank you, Wayne. So for anyone joining us online that has never seen what we do is we take a look at the suggested instruction for a step or so a week directly out of this book. And we use this book in 12-Step Recovery. Why? Yeah, the process described by the authors of this book has been proven to work for addicts of the hopeless variety, addicts to alcohol and other substances, and in fact, other behavioral disorders, turns out. So what we do is we try and find our testimony within their testimony. We try and find our story within their story, if you will, if that language is offensive to some people that have religious ears that freak out when people say testimony. But the thing is, this is the story of the first 100. So my job is not to tell you what they said. My job is to tell you what they said, what it means to me, find my experience in it, and to encourage you to have your experience with it. And the entire book is intended to show you what a spiritual awakening within you looks like and feels like. And because that's very complex to do, because of the sensory nature of awakening in the spirit, we have to impart it one human to another, which is why there's ideas like sponsorship in our fellowships. Make sense? So tonight we're going to take a look at steps 8 and 9, which is good news. Those of you that are heading for the doors. Steps 8 and 9 are the fitness steps. So this is where we're going to start getting free, right? Everybody wants to get free. Not necessarily everybody wants to do self-searching, leveling of pride, confession of shortcomings. But that's what the process requires for its successful consummation. Does that make sense? So we're going to talk about that. So we're in the middle of page 76. Lisa's ushering everybody, if you hear. So middle of page 76, it says, now we need more action, without which we find that faith without works is dead. Does anyone recognize that from another book? Yes. From the book of James, yes? And why for the alcoholic is that especially true? Wow, it went completely silent. Okay, so we need to get into action. You're absolutely right, Aaron. We act our way into better thinking because we've been trying to think our way into better acting. It didn't work, right? That's the whole stuck in our mess thing, is trying to think my way into better acting. So now we're going to act our way into better thinking. And we're also in that process, we're performing a service for people who see us. If they knew what we were like, and then they see what happened when they ask us, how did you do that? And we tell them, I didn't do that. That was done for me by this power that I've encountered and grown in consciousness of from within me, right? I bear witness, so I honor my third step. And then that way, others can see the miracles. Yes? Okay, so works are observable acts, so it works to build a fellowship. And because I'm a doubter by nature, I prove the power to me through me. Make sense? Okay. So then it says we have a list of all persons we have harmed and to whom we are willing to make amends. Where did we get such a list? Wow, a bunch of people did step 4 around here. You got a list in step 4? It says we made it when we took inventory. We like to call that to your attention so you understand the nature of the steps. They're in order for a reason. Everything begats something else. They're all inclusive, not mutually exclusive. It is not a workbook exercise. It is a manner of living. Make sense? Yes. Okay. So it says we subjected ourselves to a drastic self-appraisal. How many of you found step 4 drastic?
Very much so.
Most everybody. Yeah. So then it says now we go out to our fellows and repair the damage done in the past. We attempt to sweep away the debris which is accumulated out of our effort to live on self-will and run the show ourselves. If we haven't the will to do this, we ask until it comes. So they're telling you something about willingness that we may not have comprehended before we came into recovery rooms. Willingness is divine power. Although in you, it is not of you. It will have to be imparted to you. Some of you that read that other book, my righteousness comes from him, if that makes sense. Okay, so remember it was agreed at the beginning that we would go to any lengths for victory over alcohol. They put that in italics. Who did I make that agreement with? With my Creator that I find within me. So I want to keep the promises to the one to whom I've fully conceded. Yes? We learned that we had to fully concede to our innermost self that we were alcoholic, human, whatever. This is the first step in recovery. So when I make a commitment to a Creator within me, good idea to keep it, particularly when I'm still living in the grace he provides. Yes? Okay, so probably there are still some misgivings. So they right away go back to our built-in doubter, right? How many of you have some misgivings? Even though you know you should keep going. And, okay, so then it says, as we look over the list of business acquaintances and friends we have hurt, we may feel different about going to some of them on a spiritual basis. What do they mean?
Hallelujah, brothers and sisters, I've been saved.
Yeah, Sean's had a religious experience. We may feel a little uncomfortable going to people who have seen how we've been living. And there's nothing necessarily wrong with that, but many of us had some rather nefarious business acquaintances, yes? Okay, so let us be reassured, to some people we need not and probably should not emphasize the spiritual feature on our first approach. They've told you something there. What have they told you? Yeah, there's going to be more than one approach, or they wouldn't have called out the first one. And I don't want to scare them off on the first one. How many of you have met that guy that is all of a sudden all full of the Spirit and run around and telling everybody, and next week he's out running and gunning again? So we'd rather observe your progress than have you tell us about it. Does it make sense? It's a more effective witness. That's why I ask in 3, take away my difficulties that they may bear witness to your love, your power, your way of life. The fact that the difficulties are off me becomes evident if you knew me when they were on me. When the difficulties were on me, I shared them liberally with y'all. All right, so we might prejudice them. So we don't want to prejudice anybody in our witness. Yes? So at the moment, we're trying to put our lives in order, but this is not an end in itself. Our real purpose is to fit ourselves to be of maximum service to God and the people about us. So did you know that? Most of us lived a life that felt like it lacked some purpose at times, which is why we tried to medicate it away. Yeah? And so my purpose isn't just to be sober and run around telling people I'm doing stuff everyone does without a ribbon. You'd think that sometimes. You know, most people get up every day and go to work. Most people make their bed. Most people wash their clothes. I don't get a trophy for participating. My real purpose, what's going to give me zest for life, is to find that my experience empowers me to help people like me. Yes? So our real purpose is not what we think it is. It's what we were engineered for, and that is healed people, heal people. Okay. So then it says it's seldom wise to approach an individual who still smarts from our injustice to him and announce that we've gone religious. How many of you, Sean kind of gave us a routine of what that looked like. We lack credibility declaring ourselves awakened, right? That's something people should discover on their own.
What happened when Thatcher started off with Bill that way?
Yeah. Yep, we got to be very, very careful to get their attention in subtle ways. Yep. Okay, so in the prize ring, this would be called leading with the chin. Why lay ourselves open to being branded fanatics or religious bores? Question mark. They're talking about a common fear. Are you afraid of telling people that something really unique and special has been done for you because you don't know what they'll think of you saying that? A lot of people are afraid to witness honestly because they're afraid of what people will think. But if I don't tell the story, who's going to tell it? Anyway, so we may kill a future opportunity to carry a beneficial message, but our man is sure to be impressed with a sincere desire to set right the wrong. He's going to be more interested in a demonstration of goodwill than in our talk of spiritual discoveries. So they don't really need to know what my spiritual journey looks like. What they need to see in me is changed behavior. I did that. You didn't deserve that. What can I do to make it right to you? Yes? All right. So we don't use this as an excuse for shying away from the subject of God. When it will serve any good purpose, we're willing to announce our convictions with tact and common sense. What's that look like? Most of us are not religious scholars, so we don't have to get into language they don't understand. Most of us can also, we don't have to get into Alcoholics Anonymous. Any of you, because we'll talk in code that only AA people know too. But the point is, if somebody doesn't know any of that, and they just come up to me and say, look, I drank more than I wanted to. I always thought that I just forgot that I wanted to. But then eventually, when I couldn't stop and stay stopped, I realized that I had no power to stop. And as much damage as it was doing in my life, I just kept doing it again and again and again until there was nothing left. And then the AA people told me that I might have a spiritual malady. And then the manifestation of that spiritual malady is a condition of powerlessness in the face of the spirit. Yeah? And so the spirit I was ingesting owned me at the cost of everything worthwhile. Yes? So that shouldn't be offensive as a witness, yes? Some of you felt it. Who felt that? That's the power we call God. Okay. All right. So the question of how to approach the man we hated will arise. How many of you got those? How many of you don't have those because you don't like the word hate? Okay, so hate means strongly dislike. So if we're uncomfortable about people, we got them. We'll take a look, right? All right, so it may be that he's done us more harm than we've done him, and though we may have acquired a better attitude toward him, we're still not too keen about admitting our faults. Any of you had those? Because what if I say that to them, and then what will that mean to me? And yeah. Okay, so nevertheless, interesting word, isn't it? You can push that thought aside. That's what nevertheless means. All of that evidence in admission, it's my freedom I seek. Yes? So nevertheless, with a person we dislike, we take the bit in our teeth. What do they mean? Yeah, when the animal gets the bit in the teeth, they've taken control of the situation. They're going where they want to go. We're going to take control of this situation, go where we want to go. Make sense? All right, so it's harder to go to an enemy than to a friend, but we find it much more beneficial to us. Don't get it twisted. You probably won't be able to go to the hardest one first, like I've heard people say. That's why it's written suggestively in the book, to the wife, to the family, to the employer. Get a circle of support around you. But you will find that the ones you were never going to make, when you finally make them, you'll get a degree of freedom that is really, truly liberating. So then it says, they're talking to you about preparation, so pay attention to the preparation. We go to him in a helpful and forgiving spirit. How does one get in a helpful and forgiving spirit? Prayer and meditation, right? They started talking to us about prayer and meditation clear back in how it works. Yes? Okay. Then it says confessing our former ill feeling and expressing our regret. Under no condition do we criticize such a person or argue. Now, how many of you have gotten there and then they had something to say to you and you did criticize such a person and argue? So then you had to go make amends for the amends you tried to make. Okay, so you missed the first part of the instruction. We go to him in a helpful and forgiving spirit. I need a power greater than me in every tense interaction. And this is what it's teaching me, excuse me. Simply, we tell them that we'll never get over drinking until we've done our utmost to straighten out the past. Don't say that if you don't know that, because they'll know. Truth has a feel. I have to make this right to you because I will never get well if I do not. And you may not ever receive it, but I have to have made the approach. Yes? So we're there to sweep off our side of the street, realizing that nothing worthwhile can be accomplished until we do so, never trying to tell him what he should do. His faults are not discussed. We stick to our own. Notice how they said the same thing numerous times. Do you think they're describing a degree of difficulty? Do you think there were some mistakes made along the way? Because we're just growing in consciousness, right? I just did an inventory. I looked at those things that were obscuring my consciousness, my pomps, my worships, those types of things. And now I'm starting to process all that and learn a little bit more about the sensory nature, the tangible nature of this power, right? But I'm still, as the authors say, we're not saints, right? Okay. So it says if our manner is calm, frank, and open, we will be gratified with the result. So they gave you a specification. What is calm? Calm in appearance, right? How many of you have made a hard amends?
Mentally also. You have to be calm mentally.
I think I don't want to confuse, so you're absolutely right. What I'm saying is you need to be calm in appearance and in clarity of thought, which is, I think, what Sean's adding to what I'm saying. But what we want you to know as you go to make your approaches, you're going to feel trepidation, but you're not going to let fear drive you anymore. You're using it for fuel. Does that make sense? Yeah. Okay, because you're in the Spirit, and the Spirit is not a spirit of fear, but of love and power and a sound mind from the other book, yeah? Okay, so if our manner is calm, frank, and open, we will be gratified with the result. In 9 cases out of 10, the unexpected happens. Wow, how many of you take that bet? Everybody will take a 90% bet, right? Okay, so in 9 cases out of 10, the unexpected happens. Sometimes the man we're calling upon admits his own faults, so feuds of years standing melt away in an hour. How many of you have had a sincere and frank discussion with someone you've been at odds with for years, and when you finally got to talking about it, you really couldn't even remember what you were offended about? Because remember, we weren't in our right minds when we were playing. Okay, so rarely do we fail to make satisfactory progress. Rarely means rarely. So that we don't get into, separating fly shit from pepper. Our former enemies sometimes praise what we're doing and wish us well. Occasionally, they will offer assistance. It should not matter, however, if someone does throw us out of his office. We've made our demonstration, done our part. It's water over the dam. Guys, all they're saying in a lot of flowery words is some outcomes are not what we hoped for, but they're nonetheless the outcomes we needed for our development. That's the only way they come. So not everybody is going to respond in some loving, kind way. Some people, if you've got family members you've hurt, you may discover, like I did, that I've got family members haven't talked to me in 20 years, and they don't appear to get a start because I'm still that to them. And does that make sense? So it doesn't really matter because I got introduced to a whole new family. And I got lots of brothers and sisters and children that need to be lifted up, and that is my purpose. Right. All right, so then it says most alcoholics owe money.
No shit.
Now, no one seems surprised by that, but I did meet one man one time in recovery who insists he did not owe money. I do not know if he's lying. But I suggest that he didn't try very hard if he got here without owing money. I mean, he gave up way too soon. There's a lot to burn down before that. Okay. Anyway, so we do not dodge our creditors. They're talking to us new in recovery, guys. All of us have that experience. We got a bunch of stuff. We're not got a whole lot, and we're worried about all these people that want our money, and someone has to remind us, no, they don't want your money. They want their money. So you're going to have to work out a plan, right? Telling them what we're trying to do, we make no bones about our drinking. They usually know it anyway, whether we think so or not. How many of you had that experience? Thought you were really clever with your addiction. Some people pull it off, but most of us thought we were pulling it off. But when I finally admitted it, I just made it unanimous. Oh, good. Now we're all on the same page. All right, so nor are we afraid of disclosing our alcoholism on the theory that it may cause financial harm. What may cause financial harm? My disclosure of my condition, right? And what they're not saying is go tell everybody you've got an addictive disorder or what have you, because it's, number one, it's not an excuse, it's an explanation for bad behavior they've experienced from me. So they're not entitled to an explanation if they didn't experience bad behavior from me. And if you go tell everybody, you will find people who don't understand, and it may cost you opportunities. Why would you do that? So approach in this way, the most ruthless creditor will sometimes surprise us. How many of you have been surprised by somebody you thought was going to be mean? Yeah, in almost every room, that happens. So, arranging the best deal we can, we let these people know we're sorry. How do I let them know? Yeah, I mean, they say that in a way that I need to be demonstrably different. I may say I'm sorry, but I have said I was sorry when I clearly was not. And most of us have said we're sorry when we're clearly not. And it looks like, I'm sorry to interrupt, but we do it every day. Right? So I'm not the least bit sorry. I'm just telling you my time's more important than yours. Right? So I'm going to have to match something with what I'm saying now in this new manner of living. Head and heart, flesh, all got to work in unison. Okay. Our drinking has made us slow to pay. Yes? Any of you ever drink it up? Shoot it up, smoke it up, whatever your flavor was. We must lose our fear of creditors no matter how far we have to go, for we're liable to drink if we're afraid to face them. They said that with such emphasis, I don't think we tell people the truth about that. If you keep dodging these things, you're allowing fear to drive you. And if you're feeding your fears, you are not feeding your spirit. Right? How am I going to grow into the 9th step promises, fear of economic insecurity leaving me when I'm letting it drive me all over, keep my drapes closed, not answering the door, not answering my phone? Right? Not a condemnation, but I said I wanted freedom. Right? Okay. So perhaps, this is always good for our little group, perhaps we've committed a criminal offense, which might land us in jail if it were known to the authorities. Caesar says, allegedly. We may be short in our accounts and unable to make good. We have already admitted this in confidence to another person, but we're sure we would be imprisoned or lose our job if it were known. Do you see the importance of the 5th step in the preparatory step for 9? If I didn't unload this to somebody who loved me enough to listen to all my stuff and help me carry my burdens, if I held back in 5, I'm never going to make the amends that I need for freedom. Has nothing to do with rules. It's suggestive. But you want to be free? How free? So then it said maybe it's only a petty offense such as padding the expense account. Most of us have done that sort of thing. Maybe we're divorced and have remarried but haven't kept up the alimony to number 1. She's indignant about it and has a warrant out for our arrest. That's a common form of trouble too. Any of you have old domestic stuff? Not everybody does, but many of us do. So although these reparations take innumerable forms, now they're talking to everyone else. One of the things we like to do is compare ourselves favorably. This doesn't apply to me because I never did that. This doesn't apply to me because I never did this. I don't want to go to those rooms and meet with those people. I don't want to be like those people. I hope no one who knows me sees me in those meetings. All common thoughts, and I only do that so we can laugh at ourselves, but remember the new guy's not laughing. So help them understand, look, dude, the old Irish proverb's still in play. Show me who your friends are, I'll tell you who you are. Make sense? So I ain't hiding nowhere. All right, so although these reparations take innumerable forms, there are some general principles which we find guiding. So whatever drove you to a recovery situation, they've got some guiding principles that'll help you get on your way. Makes sense, right? So reminding ourselves that we've decided to go to any lengths to find a spiritual experience. That's right back to step one, isn't it? Yeah. Fully concede to my innermost self. Lack of power is my dilemma. I'm going to need some power here. Yes? Yes. Okay. Did you know that my decision in 3 was not to get sobriety, but to go to any lengths to find a spiritual experience, one of the side effects of which is abstinence from worldly spirits? A lot of people don't know that, and it's so clearly written in the steps. Having had a spiritual awakening as the result of these steps. Not as a result, as the result. Which means my whole job was to awaken in the spirit. And abstinence will be a byproduct of that, because it makes me a better instrument. Yes? Yes. All right, so we ask that we be given strength and direction to do the right thing, no matter what the personal consequences may be. Guys, meditate on that. The right thing to do is seldom the easiest thing to do, especially in front of people you've harmed. But it's always the right thing to do, regardless of its level of difficulty. Right? Okay, so we may lose our position or reputation or face jail, but we are willing. Where'd that willingness come from? Yeah, I'm starting to grow in consciousness of this power within me, and I want more of it, right? All right, so we must not shrink at anything. So they're telling you to re-up. Keep re-up, yeah? Okay, so usually, however, other people are involved. So now they're going to tell us about those mysterious others, right? You notice that this is your inventory, and then you're going to give space to others. And unlike people have said for years in the fellowship, you are never others. Others are others, and you're you, and they're going to explain that to you. I know we want to be in all the camps, but therefore we are not to be the hasty and foolish martyr who would needlessly sacrifice others to save himself from the alcoholic pit. Right? So I don't get to go do something that'll bring harm to the people I've already harmed and have continued to harm just to get free. I'm going to have to move in this more respectfully from here on out. So a man we know had remarried because of resentment and drinking. He had not paid alimony to his first wife. She was furious. She went to court and got an order for his arrest. Okay, so he got a court action going from the ex. Says he had commenced our way of life. What do they mean? Yeah, he had met the AAs. They'd shown him what the step process was, and he was now starting to gather regularly with his AA family. Yeah? Had secured a position. So he has a job. And was getting his head above water. So he's starting to pay some bills back. It would have been impressive heroics if he'd walked up to the judge and said, "Here I am." So consider what they're suggesting. If I'm trying to grow spiritually, fruit of that condition will be humility. Am I seeking impressive heroics? No, I do not want to seek impressive heroics, right? So that's what your sponsor, mentor is going to help you sort out. We could have to do that, and if we do, we'll pray up and we'll get ready to do that. But let's see if we can avoid that first, because everyone gets hurt if you just go self-surrender. Maybe there's a way to keep you from being incarcerated and creating even more wreckage. Let's see what God makes a way for you. Okay? So we thought he ought to be willing to do that if necessary. So I just summarized what they're saying. But if he were in jail, he could provide nothing for either family. Again, just what I was explaining to you. We suggested he write the first wife, admitting his faults and asking forgiveness. He did, and he also sent a small amount of money. He told her what he would try and do in the future. He said he was perfectly willing to go to jail if she insisted. I'm going to stop short there, and I want you to understand the nature of that. He could not have admitted his faults and asked forgiveness had he not done a 4 and seen how he had caused harm. So he got properly armed with the facts about himself through the process. Does that make sense? And then he said he told her what he would try and do in the future and gave him what he could. And hopefully you have someone help you, because if we get grandiose and we do something we can't meet later, now we're back to who we've been. Does it make sense? And then it said, and he said he was perfectly willing to go to jail if she insisted. So here's some money. Here's my apology. I hope one day you can receive it. Here's what I'm going to try and do in the future. And I did none of this to stop you from keeping me. If you want me to go to jail, I'm ready to go. Right? That's changed behavior. Yes? Okay. So he said that he said he was perfectly willing to go to jail. She insisted. And then it says, of course, she did not. Because at the moment he showed the change, she bore witness to the change. And she may not have known what it was, but as Wayne says, she knew it in her knower, right? You knew it in my knower. Something's different here. Like Bill opening the door to Ebby. What? What is this? Yes? Okay. So the whole situation has long since been adjusted. Before taking drastic action, so we're back to instruction now. Before taking drastic action, which might implicate other people, we secure their consent. So those others are any of those people that had the employer that I may have to be gone from a while. If there's a new family, my AAs, I may have a service commitment. All those people need to be bought into what I'm going to do so that it's changed behavior. Yes? So it's a community effort now because there's strength in community. So if we've obtained permission from who? Those others. That's why I tell you, you're not others. You don't need your own permission. You never have. That's why you behaved in such aberrant ways. Have consulted with others. So some people that are not caught up in the situation, hopefully, and the ones that are. Yes? Ask God to help. Ask power to help. And the drastic step is indicated. We must not shrink. Notice how they spoke about when I speak to the power, I get a sensory response. You ever had that happen and you just didn't have anyone explain it to you? They're talking to you about the sensory nature of this power. There's an I asked, and then I was convicted. It's time to go. Yeah? Yeah. Who's still? Some of you are still feeling it. The amps are up in here. How about you guys in Oklahoma and Moorhead, South Dakota? All you people feeling what we're putting down in here? Okay, so this brings to mind a story about one of our friends. While drinking, he accepted a sum of money from a bitterly hated business rival, giving him no receipt for it. So, how many of you went to the bar or whenever, got hammered, ran into somebody, maybe agreed to something, maybe kept spending the money that you just received from this, because after all, he's bitterly hated, so screw him. Okay, so you can relate to what's going on. He's out drinking with this dude. The guy gives him some money, and then he says, he didn't give me that money. Later, yeah? Okay, so he subsequently denied having received the money and used the incident as a basis for discrediting the man. The guy gave him money for the church fund. I'm just going to give you a little spoiler there. So he gave him money for the church fund. The church was important to this guy. And so now he felt like he could never go back to his church because not only had he ripped this dude off, he'd lied to the whole congregation. So he thus used his own wrongdoing as a means of destroying the reputation of another. So those of you that come from the church lanes, you know that's pretty serious stuff. Yeah, that kind of defamatory. Anyway, so in fact, his rival was ruined. He felt that he'd done a wrong he could not possibly make right. Any of you ever done something that you're just sure you just can't make right? Does it give you comfort to know that although you're probably right, the power in you can make it right? Which is why I want to grow in consciousness. Where there is no way, he will make a way. Yeah? All right, so if he opened that old affair, he was afraid it would destroy the reputation of his partner, disgrace his family, and take away his means of livelihood. He's talking about the new partner, and he didn't want to cause harm to him. His mind's telling him, don't go own your part because it's going to bring dishonor on all of us. You ever get a chorus of people telling you, look, just leave that alone? Listen, it happens. We have Jim's in here tonight. We spend some time normally with people that are coming back from addictive disorder, coming back from incarceration, letting them know the dynamics of the family. It's not that they're ill-meaning. It's just that you're not in your role, and they want you back in your role. So we're not saying be angry at them. What we're saying is be aware that this is spiritual warfare, and you are going to get attacked by the people you least expect it from. So what right had he to involve those dependent upon him? So that's question mark. Now you see how we're working inward. Eyesight without insight is spiritual blindness. So when they put a question mark, go inward. What right did I have? None without their permission, right? I just got the instruction. None without their permission. All right, how could he possibly make a public statement exonerating his rival? Question mark. How could I? I don't even know how many people I've harmed. I know I harmed him and his family, but I defrauded the entire church community. I don't even know who's in it or who was in it then. I don't know none of that. So how's he gonna know? How could he possibly do that? He's gonna have to get centered in the spirit, isn't he? And listen to what happened after he got centered in the spirit, what was given to him to do. After consulting with his wife and partner, to Aaron's point, he came to the conclusion it was better to take those risks than to stand before his creator guilty of such ruinous slander. So remember, I was telling you, in religious circles, that ruinous slanders, that'll get you. Anyway, he saw that he had to place the outcome in God's hands, or he would soon start drinking again and all would be lost anyhow. So he's at a turning point again. So it was never about abstinence, it was about a spiritual awakening, wasn't it? Because his turning point was beyond abstinence. It has to get me beyond fear. Does that make sense? All right, so he attended church for the first time in many years. Had to have gotten that in the spirit, didn't he? After the sermon, he quietly got up and made an explanation. Back to Sean's point and some of you others, how quiet you think he felt. He didn't feel very quiet, but his mind was clear and his voice was steady. That can't happen except in the spirit, right? Because that's scary stuff. That's what any links might look like. His action met widespread approval, and today he's one of the most trusted citizens of his town. This all happened years ago. So what they're showing you demonstrably is the thief of the church fund becomes the most trusted citizen of the town in front of the congregation, witnessing to dozens, if not hundreds, and they're getting to see a changed man. Make sense? So the chances are that we have domestic troubles. Everyone gets a giggle about domestic troubles. Where's my meth addicts? You guys didn't even keep it domestic very well. You just kept a bucket of troubles. Perhaps we're mixed up with women in a fashion we wouldn't care to have advertised. And this book was written before they acknowledged everybody. But whatever you're mixed up with that you wouldn't want to advertise, that's what we're talking about. We doubt if in this respect alcoholics are fundamentally much worse than other people. Did you find out after your addictive disorder was arrested that you still had aberrant human behavior? Yes. A lot of us thought all that was going to go away. I remember an old timer that I met when I first came in a long time ago, and he says, you know, it took me 2 years reading those steps to realize that step 2 didn't say, and my wife had become unmanageable. Anyway, it's never about the externals. Anyway, but drinking does complicate sex relations in the home. So we do get a little bit undependable. Yes? So after a few years with an alcoholic, a wife gets worn out, resentful, and uncommunicative. Do you recognize that from relationships you may have had? Wives, husbands, boyfriends, girlfriends, whatever anyone had. So that's what I see with these, right? But now in my disciplines, I see worn out, resentful, and uncommunicative. I know it's not being caused by that. That's going on in me. So now I got to get disciplined and ask myself, how could she be anything else? Right? And that's why you've got a chapter to the wives to explain what it looked like to have someone like me come home to you. So the husband begins to feel lonely, sorry for himself. Any of you ever get there? Yeah. He commences to look around in the nightclubs or their equivalent for something besides liquor.
Christie's Cabaret.
Sean likes Christie's. How many of you went to the fellowship hall looking for? We act like we're surprised, but we all know. And again, we're not to be the arbiter of anyone else, but the point is, that's a manifestation of the illness. Don't condemn them. Wrap them up. Explain to them, look, if you're looking for it out there, you're bound up. You're just 2 seconds from tasting that pipe again. Not because I say so, because that's facts from our experience. Yeah. Perhaps he's having a secret and exciting affair with the girl who understands. Have any of you ever met him or her? Yeah. You've been hurt? Sierra's been hurt. All right. That was a great admission. I'm not even sure I know what to do with it. I may have to step down now. I usually have to do all the embarrassing things from up here, but that, holy cow. So in fairness, we must say that she may understand, but what are we going to do about a thing like that? Don't let someone's being understanding get in the way of you trying to do what it is you're trying to do, right? We'll tell ourselves all kinds of stories to avoid doing the right thing, no matter what the personal consequences are. But if I do that, I still stay bound up in my fears. So a man so involved often feels very remorseful at times, especially if he's married to a loyal and courageous girl who's literally gone through hell for him. So they're describing something about the way our mind works and the way it attacks. I feel bad at times, but I know I'll just go to another meeting. I'll go do this. I'll go spend money I don't have. I'll do something that puts it out of my mind. So whatever the situation, we usually have to do something about it. So they're just telling you what they learned. They learned that if you keep running outside of yourself looking for your ease and comfort, you're going to get in trouble soon enough. Because it's all an illusion. All that world can do is show you how you're thinking and feeling. It has no power to cause any of that. So if we're sure our wife does not know, should we tell her? Question mark. No. got a firm no. Anybody else have an opinion? There's a qualification if we're sure. How many of you were sure they didn't know about your addiction? Anyway, that's a question for you to settle with you and your creator, perhaps who you're working with. Not always, we think. If she knows in a general way that we've been wild, should we tell her in detail? Question. We got more emphatic no's. How many of you have asked for detail, got the details, wish you didn't have the details? Yeah, that's a really unkind act to give a lot of detail, because then that picture's embedded in their psyche. Undoubtedly, we should admit our fault. She may insist on knowing all the particulars. She'll want to know who the woman is and where she is. We feel we ought to say to her that we have no right to involve another person. We're sorry for what we've done, and, God willing, it shall not be repeated. More than that, we cannot do. We have no right to go forward. So that's how they feel they should handle it. However, if they're not centered in the Spirit, something else might happen, or there may be a different instruction. It's not for me to, okay? So then it says, though there may be justifiable exceptions. Now, I want to caution you, especially in early recovery, justification and masturbation are two of the most prominent ways one fucks themselves. Just thought I'd put it out there. Sorry for those of you who are expecting better of me. That's what we got. So though we wish to lay down no rule of any sort, we have often found this the best course to take. So we usually find the best course to take when we realize what we've done should have been done another way, and we go back and get centered in the Spirit. Does that make sense? Be careful with your own justifications. The main problem centers in the mind. Taking the temperature down a little from my... So our design for living is not a one-way street. It's good for the wife, it's for the husband. If we can forget, so can she. No one's got a comment on that? We usually caution you it's best for her to have that discovery all on her own. Don't point it out to them. It's better, however, that one does not needlessly name a person upon whom she can vent jealousy. So that's what happens. If I start giving them what they want because I'm not centered in the Spirit, the energy changes to that person who they just interacted with me. The common element's me, right? So perhaps there are some cases where the utmost frankness is demanded. So we're not, no rules, but, make sure you're prayed up. No outsider can appraise such an intimate situation. So who's an outsider?
Everybody else.
Yeah, you and your Creator. This is go time. You're going to find out how real it is, right? All right, so it may be that both will decide that the way of good sense and loving kindness is to let bygones be bygones. Each might pray about it, having the other one's happiness uppermost in mind. Keep it always in sight that we are dealing with that most terrible human emotion, jealousy. Good generalship may decide that the problem be attacked on the flank rather than risk face-to-face combat. So love and tolerance is our code. You'll understand I'm going to love them and tolerate the symptoms of their behavior, and I'm going to hope that in time the changed nature softens things, right? Rather, again, light is self-evident. If indeed you are enlightened, people will discover that without you telling them. So if we have no such complication, there is plenty we should do at home. So even if you don't have that kind of history in your relationship, you probably have some kind of history in your relationship, because alcoholism or addiction in a home doesn't live in one vessel. It's spread liberally throughout the home. Even if they're not using, they're sick. They wouldn't live with you otherwise.
Right.
So sometimes we hear an alcoholic say that the only thing he needs to do is keep sober. How many of you have heard that? You even go to some of our fellowship meetings and they'll tell you that. But does that make sense in light of your own experience?
No.
If the only thing I needed to do was to stay sober, how come I got sober and then couldn't stay that way? So there must be more. There must be underlying stuff, right? So, for there will be no home if he doesn't, but he's yet a long way from making good to the wife or parents whom for years he's so shockingly treated. I've got to go make it right the best I can. Passing all understanding is the patience mothers and wives have had with alcoholics. Had this not been so, many of us would have no homes today, would perhaps be dead.
Yes.
The alcoholic is like a tornado roaring its way through the lives of others. Hearts are broken, sweet relationships are dead, affections have been uprooted. Selfish and inconsiderate habits have kept the home in turmoil. We feel a man is unthinking, when he says that sobriety is enough. They use a real gentle word, but remember, if you hear people talking like that, it's a cry for help. Show some compassion. Alcohol, the drugs, they're a symptom of an underlying malady. So if they're unthinking, perhaps we speak life into them. Yes? So he's like the farmer who came out of the cyclone cellar to find his home ruined. To his wife, he remarked, "Don't see anything the matter here, Ma. Ain't it grand? Stop blowing." Then they go right back to talking to us about what we got ahead of us. Yes, there's a long period of reconstruction ahead, and we must take the lead. Back to the bit in the mouth, right? Bit in the teeth. A remorseful mumbling that we're sorry won't fill the bill at all. So sorry may be indicated, but that's not going to mean anything. So we ought to sit down with the family and frankly analyze the past as we now see it. How many of you have had the opportunity to sit down with family and take a look at what's gone on? And how many of you do see with different eyes now? Yeah, it's really amazing, isn't it? So being very careful not to criticize them. Their defects may be glaring, but the chances are that our own actions are partly responsible. So we clean house with the family, asking each morning in meditation that our Creator show us the way of patience, tolerance, kindness, and love. I like to challenge guys I'm working with, add that to your daily prayer for 30 days and see if your life doesn't change. Creator, please show me the way of patience, kindness, tolerance, and love. It's a real important thing, because once I start seeing those things, that means I'm experiencing those things. So the spiritual life is not a theory. A lot of people read right past that. Guys, we're not talking about concepts. We're not talking about doorknobs, light bulbs. We're talking about the tangible presence of the power that we call God operating in and through us. And we want to improve consciousness, because that is my ease and comfort in the world, so I don't have to go out in the world to get it. It's the only hope for someone like me with an addictive disorder. So then it says we have to live it. What do they mean? Quit telling me what that book says and show me what that book says. Don't be just a reader of the word, be a doer. So unless one's family expresses a desire to live upon spiritual principles, we think we ought not urge them. Why not? They should have the dignity to discover whether they want it or not, same way I did, right? So we should not talk incessantly to them about spiritual matters. They will change in time. Look at that. Atmospherics matter. When you're changed, it's unmistakable. And they will change in time if they're paying attention. So our behavior will convince them more than our words. We must remember that 10 or 20 years of drunkenness and make a skeptic out of anyone. There may be some wrongs we can never fully right. We don't worry about them if we can honestly say to ourselves that we would right them if we could. So if you would make it right, but that person has passed, or you can't access them because of court orders or what have you, that's fine. Your repentance is enough, right? So some people cannot be seen. We send them an honest letter. So they tell you can send them a letter, but we make direct amends where possible. So don't send a letter, because then you don't have to face them. Right? That's what they're telling you. There's power in impartation of all of this stuff. So, and there may be a valid reason for postponement in some cases. There may be a reason it can't be done directly, and it will be able to be done sometime in the future, so I'm going to work on some other stuff. But we don't delay if it can be avoided. We should be sensible, tactful, considerate, and humble without being servile or scraping. We're not here to be shamed. We've done that enough. We're here to declare who we are and whose we are and how regretful we are that they had a bad experience of us, and see if we can improve it. Yeah? So as God's people, we stand on our feet. We don't crawl before anyone. Caesar's been sending out a study this week, and they've been talking to us about restoration or reclamation was above our pay grade. That had to be done by one greater than us. But dominion, walking in power, that was always our calling. So Once we've been reclaimed, it is our obligation to grow in dominion of all that we survey. Okay, some of you felt that. All right, so now we're at what they call the 9-step promises. We'll go through them. If we're painstaking about this phase of our development, what phase?
Step 4 through 9.
Yeah, we're in the practices and starting to walk it out. We'll be amazed before we're halfway through. We're going to know a new freedom and a new happiness. New. We'll not regret the past nor wish to shut the door on it. Why not?
Because it's our asset.
Yeah. Yeah, there's treasure, right? In that past, it can avert suffering for others, right? Properly armed with facts about myself. I want people to understand we like to call your attention what the promises are promising, because they're not just some stuff you see on the wall. I see people all the time, I got a new car, I'm getting the promises. No, you're not. You're getting a new fucking car. These are states of being when you awaken to the spirit within you. Now, the fact that I can afford a car may indeed be the result of a promise, but this, I don't have to have any wealth. When this starts happening to me, I don't need wealth, because everything I've got's already there. So we'll not regret the past nor wish to shut the door on it. We'll comprehend the word serenity, and we will know peace. Look at how they're talking about sensory. To Sean's point, clarity of mind and a peaceful heart. No matter how far down the scale we've gone, we'll see how our experience can benefit others. Whose experience? Yeah, properly armed with the facts about myself, I can tell them a story of a redemption that is impossible. Yes? So that feeling of uselessness and self-pity will disappear. Does it say might disappear? When you feel stuck, guys, and you start feeling uselessness and self-pity in your recovery, and you will, it's because you're not staying in action. And it's not about going to meetings. It's about finding someone to help. Yeah. All right. So we'll lose interest in selfish things and gain interest in our fellows. Self-seeking will slip away. Our whole attitude and outlook upon life will change. Fear of people and of economic insecurity will leave us. Guys, the fear of economic insecurity will leave you before the reality of economic insecurity will leave you, if you're like most of them. And it's just the way it is. We'll intuitively know how to handle situations which used to baffle us. And we'll suddenly realize that God is doing for us what we could not do for ourselves. How many of you had that realization? Just like you don't even think the same way. You're not reacting the same way. And you're like, what did I do? That's not what I signed on for. So then it says, are these extravagant promises?
Yes, they are.
We think not, right? They are pretty damn extravagant. That's why they call it to our attention. But that's what I'm telling you. I was like you, and now I'm like this, trying to help you. And the difference between that guy and this guy is him. Okay, so they're being fulfilled among us, sometimes quickly, sometimes slowly. They will always materialize if we work for them. That's it, gang. Next week we're in 10-11.